Hello everyone and welcome back to a brand new video where today we return with round 12 of season 3 of the F123 My Team career mode. Yes, we're back this weekend here for the French Grand Prix. Le Castellet returns once more. Of course, last season's race here was a bit of a nightmare. It was a bit of a disaster, but fingers crossed this season. Hopefully, to be honest, I'm hoping it's going to be a dry race as much as anything else. I kind of felt Le Castellet would really suit this game, and obviously the handling model and the tweaks and changes. Unfortunately, last season, like I said, treacherous conditions, never really got to test that out properly, so I'm back again this season round, obviously trying it out. Of course, if you missed out yesterday's video from the British Grand Prix, of course, I would highly recommend going back and checking it out, of course. So far, we've had a lot of ups, we've had a lot of downs so far this campaign. It is still Sergio Perez, though, that leads the points. 26 clear ahead of his teammate Max Verstappen there, with George Russell now up into P3. Sainz ahead of Leclerc and Hamilton, as we are 19 points now behind Alex Albon there. 4 points behind Aston Martin, as Oscar Piastri is kind of carrying that Aston Martin team in a similar fashion to what Albon is doing with us. And because Albon is carrying us so much, I've basically bankrupted the team as well to make sure we can afford him. $150,000 is currently left in the reserve, so we have really not got much money at all as we head into the second half of the season. But I'm hoping first of all that France is going to be dry this weekend, but I'm really trying to get there, you know, playing the game a lot, trying to do some testing behind the scenes, just so we can get back to the pace I know we've got. And interesting news then as well, quickly before we jump into the French Grand Prix. Lewis Hamilton is set to retire come the end of the season then, so that's quite big news as well. Surprised we're getting told so early on in the championship, but Hamilton, this is now his swan song. Well, it appears this weekend my prayers have been answered. Looks like it's meant to be dry running right the way through here in Le Castellet, so love to see it. And after making some big setup tweaks as well in qualifying, I don't want to get ahead of myself again, but I'm feeling like hopefully this is going to be more like Austria and less like Silverstone last weekend. I just really want us to get back into a routine in the second half of the season. Obviously, the big one is outscoring Albon, but then also trying to fight towards the front of the field as well. Imagine this is our first competitive car we have on F123 that can actually fight for wins, and it ends up being the first season I don't win a race. I mean, Mexico, apparently, so far on F123 is absolutely my sanctuary for some reason. I've never even enjoyed racing around Mexico, but it seems to work for me, so I'm not going to knock it. But yeah, anyway, first lap though in Q1, going out on a set of mediums. Just may as well try and save a set of softs if I can. Running our way though through the final couple of corners. This has been actually a very tidy lap here for a first run in Q1 as we head out of the final corner up towards the start-finish line. 28.3. We go quicker than Albon on harder tyres. Maybe Le Castellet is going to be a good track for us. Okay, straight into Q2 though. That was quite a surprise in Q1. So now we've got to wait and see whether the pace is real on the set of soft compound tyres as well then, as we round our way to start our first run. Could we finally now? I mean, we had another upgrade go on the car this weekend. Could we now finally be starting to click? Green in Sector 1, green in Sector 2. I think we were actually purple in Sector 2 momentarily. So we round our way through the final couple of corners. Let's see what time we can get on the board then. Want to be looking towards a 1 minute 27. Here it is all very tight on the times. 28.004. We go P6 again, but I'm not going to risk it. We're going to take a second run. I think it's only Alex Albon that hasn't come back out onto the circuit then, so I'm hoping he's safely through and into Q3. But yeah, as we round the final corner, ready to start my last run. This effectively now is our setup ready for the final qualifying session. I want to be looking in towards the mid-27s. I'm going to say it. I think we've got a chance for pole here. So Mark did come over the radio informing me that Alex was fastest there, so that's really good to see. But half a second up for us. Could it be a battle of the Audis here for pole position in Le Castellet as we round our way through the final corner? This should safely see us through and into Q3. The half a second improvement. Where is this going to put us come the end of the second session? I think that is fastest, a 27.4. That was a really good lap, and yet we go quickest. The best thing about this, of course, is because I did the one run on the mediums in Q1. We've actually got, on the mediums in Q1. We've actually got 2 sets of soft compound tyres here to make it count in Q3. I'm yet to invalidate a lap, but I've been very, very close on quite a few occasions. We are really getting absolutely everything out of the car we possibly can at the moment. But let's just try and get a good banker on the board. Aiming for a mid-27 again. We do tend to make up all of our time in Sector 3 there. 1/10 down on Perez at the end of Sector 2 in P6. But how far away from him are we going to be? And hopefully, it's how far in front. There, it's not. Lap's gone. We may as well finish it anyway. Get the Delta, but that is frustrating. It's now one-shot qualifying here. I do not want to start becoming a qualifying bottle job again. Around in the final corner, we did try and trick the system slightly there with that invalidation, but out of the final turn up towards the line. What's the time going to be? 27.8. Obviously, we sit in P10 there, but what is the time we've got to chase? Well, Alex Albon then has set the pace on a 1:27.2 here. It's another improvement over what we were able to do, but everyone else coming to the end of their final runs. We've got one chance to make it count. Currently sat in P10. I want pole position here. It should be an Audi pole either way, but I want to make it at the very least a 1-2 with hopefully us in prime position. We don't invalidate there, but rounding our way in towards the final couple of corners. It is green Sector 1. It's been green in Sector 2. The lap has felt really hooked up right on the white line there. Got to be careful we don't do that. Got one more corner to go, one more traction zone as we head out of the final corner. Almost a hairpin right-hander. Shortest run up towards the line though. What is the time gonna be? 27.2. It's almost identical with Albon. We've done it. We're on pole. 7 thousandths of a second between myself and Alex Albon there as we get to the end of Q3. I don't think I've ever had a qualifying session as close as that for pole position against the AI there, but it is an Audi 1-2 here, ready for the French Grand Prix. That is exactly what I'm talking about. This is exactly the kind of pace we need to showcase there. Charles Leclerc, 26 thousandths of a second away as well, but we are on pole position for the second time on F123. Let's do this thing.
Hello and welcome from the Circuit Paul Ricard, current home of the French Grand Prix, an event dating all the way back to 1906. Now, it's been held at many venues over the years, with famous moments from Dijon and Manicourt, the feature of many a highlights reel. So let's hope we see more of those in the race today. The Circuit Paul Ricard then, a 3.6-mile track, 25 miles east of Marseille. 15 corners here, 6 to the left and 9 to the right, with the main overtaking chance expected to be going into turn 8. Top speeds today should be around 205 miles per hour. Off the back of a fantastic qualifying session, it's time to see how our starting grid looks like for today's race. Mr. Monaco lines up on pole position, and Alex Albon lines up alongside. Looking at the rest of today's grid, we have Leclerc, Perez, Verstappen, Sainz, Russell, Hamilton, Ocon, Oscar Piastri, Gasly, Magnussen, Norris, De Vries, Théo Pourchaire, Liam Lawson, Bottas, Fittipaldi, Stroll, Tsunoda, Joe and Logan Sargent. With preparations almost complete, let's head down to the track. It's race day yet again, and joining me for a chat is Natalie Pinkham. Now, our racers are certainly in for a rough day today. What will you be watching for as they go down into turn 1?
There has been an exponential growth in the popularity of Formula One, and it is fantastic to see. This is the glue that's bonding families together. This is the talking point on a Sunday afternoon as they sit round and watch the race as a unit. I love the fact that people are starting to appreciate the various nuances of the sport, the fact there are so many layers to it. This is the cutting edge of technology, but there's also so much personality and sacrifice, personal sacrifice, that gets drivers and race teams where they are today.
Not quite sure how that's relevant, Natalie Pinkham, to what we need to be careful of down in towards turn 1. And I get, you know, that families need things to talk about. But if Formula 1 is the glue that is holding a family together, I'm ever so slightly concerned. But here we are, though, on the grid. Pole position, ready for the French Grand Prix today. La Castellet, 27 laps ahead of us, soft to medium. It's not going to be a particularly abrasive circuit, I don't think, but I am looking forward to this. Everyone around me is on hard compound tyres, though. Have I made a rather big error? Do the AI know something I don't? Let's find out then. French Grand Prix, 5 red lights. It's the lights out, and away we go there. I mean, we should get a nice, clean, tidy start as we head down in towards turn 1. Verstappen immediately moves past his teammate Sergio Perez, and will even look past Albon in towards the first corner there. Hamilton is on a set of medium compound tyres behind me as Perez now out of nowhere gets up into P2, but we have to run and run like crazy at the start of this GP there as Perez now ahead, of our teammate there. So Verstappen had the initial good launch, but could not find anywhere to do with it down through turn 1. Lucky not to get a warning there, but 2-second lead by the end of sector 1. The AI must be really, really squabbling with each other, but we have to utilise this to the best of our ability here. We have got to try and build up a margin early on and make sure the AI aren't getting DRS in the nicest way possible. I'm hoping this is going to be the most boring opening stint of our life. Often it's all about trying to make up places, but when you start from pole, there are no places to be had there, and cementing that 2-second lead as we head out onto the second of the Mistral straight. But Albon, I want him being our rear gunner today. You know, I reckon we've still got the outside chance of fighting right towards the title in the second half of this campaign. So Albon, he needs to get here, and he needs to be our rear gunner. I say that, I think many would argue, have been the number 2 this season within the team. I think a championship fight is all but gone. I'm going to be looking towards season 4 for that, but yeah, what are we going to be able to do this weekend? Maybe getting ahead of myself slightly. It is only lap 1 of the French Grand Prix, but I just want to be back fighting where I know we can. There's new, obviously, fastest lap of the day, 1:36.5 there, and the 2-second lead at the end of the opener. We are literally going for the prime Sebastian Vettel early 2010 strategy here of run away as much as we can off the start of a race. A 1:30.4 as we go purple once again. The gap now almost up to 3. It is over 3 seconds to Sergio Perez, so he might be under pressure from Alex Albon quite quickly here, but yeah, we've just got to run and run away like crazy. Albon, though, has moved back up then into P2, so after a little bit of pressure from his former employers, I suppose you should really call it. He's still side by side, actually, with Perez. Around the outside as they head down in towards turn 10. I've got to make sure I don't do a Charles Leclerc through Scene Corner as well, but Albon is through and back to P2. I'm still a bit lost as to why all of the AI decided to start this race basically on a set of hard compound tyres, but it certainly has meant that we're able to pull out this margin of safety early on. Perez seems to be just tucked in behind Albon at the moment, maybe worried about the bigger picture, and his teammate Max Verstappen there as Hamilton's still trying to hound those Red Bulls and the second of the Audi cars. But of course this also means we might be under a lot of pressure towards the end of the race. But I'm also looking on the minimap, sort of figuring out where we could try and re-emerge once I have pit, as Perez and Albon again side by side through the Mistral chicane. And again, Albon just seems to have the traction off the corner, but we have not had a car like this ever on F123. Even the races that we have won have really come in quite weird circumstances. Yellow flags out there. One of the Alpha Towers, I think, has just gone for a spin. As nope, Sonoda out with the Grand Prix. Don't be a safety car. I've worked hard for my 6-second lead now in the opening 5 laps. I haven't changed anything else. The only thing that's happened is we've had one extra upgrade go on the car. And I've worked out that I've been running way too little wing on this game. I tried a setup in free practice that was like 13-12 wing. and then went almost a second a lap faster by running, I think it was 26.24 or something like that. So I think we've just been not running anywhere near enough wing on this game in the opening races this season, and I think that's really where we've struggled as well. There is the stricken AlphaTauri of Yuki Tsunoda. Interesting place to park it, I suppose, but Yuki does what Yuki wants. And now we're starting to see, of course, the soft compound tyres just start reaching the end of their fantastic life. Yeah, Albon now starting to bring that gap back down slightly again. Definitely still want to be ahead of him by the time I pick, because of course it's likely that we're all going to be on mediums to the end of the Grand Prix, but just having to start managing the rubber more. It looks like Verstappen then has just lost a couple of spots. He's not in the pit lane, but Verstappen now has dropped back behind both of the Mercs in this race, so Perez must be rubbing his hands together. Now he's not under as much pressure from the cars behind either. As we just started to see the cracks from Max Verstappen showing again. It's often by about the halfway stage of the campaign it starts to happen. The Dutchman, he managed to hang on last year, but just seems to be the narrative on F123, doesn't it? Season 1, of course, Charles Leclerc was able to come back massively late on in the campaign. Season 2, George Russell, of course, was able to take the fight right towards the end as well, but Verstappen hung on. Perez, though, this season has really not let Max have it his own way. He has had one extra DNF, if I remember correctly. It might be 2 more, but yeah, Perez is in this fight. Whee! Tyres definitely starting to go. Bit of a slip up there as we try and get out onto the Mistral straight once more. That's going to cost us a couple of seconds, but yeah, I was going to peel into the pit lane anyway at the end of this lap, and now I definitely am going to there. Don't think anyone else has pit yet this afternoon, but then again, I don't think anyone else is on a set of the soft compound tyres. That was rather scary. Right, got to try and find our way into the pit lane though, here in the Castellet. Don't think I didn't have to pit here last season, did I? Because we had so many red flags that it just never was needed. 37 miles an hour though, so got to be careful on the entry there, as Perez now back into P2 of the race. But I'm hoping we come out in some fairly clear traffic, ready for the second half of the GP. Perez then will be the first car to take the lead away from me there. So yeah, where are we going to re-emerge in all of this? I think we're going to be behind the McLaren, ahead of the Williams car. Just wait and see. As good, clean, tidy stop. 2.3 seconds. You love to see it. And yep, we are going to be racing on pit exit then, as Lando Norris into the pit lane as well. Nick de Vries, another car on a set of the softs. And yep, I've come out exactly where I expected to. Behind the McLaren and ahead of the Williams. Right, well, let's try and get some overtakes done then in the second half of... Whoa, Nick de Vries. Just understeering there a little bit, and around the outside through Scene Corner we'll go. Felt like, yeah, he was just slowly moving out in towards my line there, and that got a little bit nervous for just a second. Mark's still loving the overtake though, so clearly the FIA didn't believe I did anything wrong. A couple more cars to the pit lane. I think that's Magnussen and Pierre Gasly into the box, as Nick de Vries then behind us as well will peel in. So it looks like there were a few drivers on a set of soft compound tyres, but clearly a lot of our front runners just had no faith in them as we go purple in the final sector, including that overtake. Next up though is Ocon. Well, it might be a couple more laps before we see Esteban Ocon into the pit lane. Alpine really are splitting their strategies quite aggressively, and the French team, the French super team I think you'd say, really are hoping for a bit more this weekend, as Albon into the pit lane. Oh, Ocon. I just then thought at the last moment after Albon pit that Ocon might decide to dive it in, so the AI clearly want to stretch the medium stint in the second half of this GP, but of course we should get quite the undercut on them as well there, as new fast lap of the day almost into the 29s. We are back then into P5. We really aren't going to battle many cars this weekend, are we? Unless something goes peaks on. Well, most of our remaining cars then into the pit lane. Just, I think Carlos Sainz has been left out there to do one more lap. But purple sector 1, purple sector 2. Can we get a sub 130? There we go, 29.8, new fast lap of the day. Once Sainz is pit, we'll be back to the front. Let's just try and bring this thing home, as Hamilton now, I think, has actually done a very, very good strategy call there to jump up the order as well. Albon has got back past Lewis, so we should still be in 1-2 formation here, as, yeah, Verstappen as well has been able to jump up a bit, as Perez not giving up on it, though, with his teammate. Yeah, they're going to be squabbling still, so that's given Hamilton and Albon a bit of breathing room. And there we go, Carlos Sainz into the pit lane at the end of 15, so Ferrari just extending that stint a little bit longer with their number 2. Maybe it could have been worth doing a gamble onto a set of softs or something, but Ferrari, of course, aren't going to try that. 12 laps to go then here in Le Castellet. The gap now up to 11 seconds ahead of Alex Albon. It sounds terrible as a content creator, but in the nicest way possible. I'm hoping this is the most boring second half to a race we ever get. As Albon, 1.4 ahead of Lewis. Lewis, 1.6 ahead of Max. So the battle to watch out for is still Perez versus Verstappen. No! First warning of the day. It's taken me 17 laps to do it, but yeah, definitely don't want to get a penalty. However, Albon, he's brought that gap back down under 10 seconds again. Our teammate is going to have slightly fresher rubber right the way through to the end. I mean, it might not be over. Verstappen, once again, though, seems to have his bit between his teeth, trying to get up towards Lewis Hamilton again, as Sergio Perez just waiting in the wings. Could do with Lewis defending from them for just a little bit longer, but I don't think he's going to get much say on the matter. As Albon, that gap now down to 8 seconds here with 8 laps to go. Albon has not given up on this race yet, and maybe just allowing ourselves to get too comfortable early on, and also, of course, having to try and make sure we get these tyres to the flag. Those couple of extra laps that we've done could really come back to haunt me. And it looks like Perez then has been the one to break past Lewis Hamilton in this race, so Verstappen down in P5 there, watching his teammate make overtakes that he's not been able to. Are we really seeing a shift in Red Bull? Of course, Hamilton, you know, now he knows he may as well just fight for every position until his F1 career comes to an end, but are we really seeing a shift at momentum down at Red Bull? I think Hamilton's realised now he needs to try and hang inside the DRS of Perez for as long as possible. Those hard tyres aren't quite giving him the pace he needs, but Perez is on a mission as well there. The gap to Albon down to 6 seconds with 5 laps to go. We are monitoring the pace over our teammate. I'm fine with him getting close. Well, I just want to keep it at an arm's length here with just a handful of laps to go. And Verstappen now has moved past Lewis. Just 4 laps to go. And I think, though, 2 seconds behind his teammate Perez. Unless Perez can close it to Albon, I don't fancy Max's chances here. It looks like Perez is once again going to just extend that lead at the top of the championship. Gap for us, though, 5.8 seconds. We're starting to get a little bit worried then. 2 laps to go here. Albon, the gap between him and Perez has really come down there. Our teammate has struggled to continue the momentum that he had against myself, and Perez obviously boxed that 1 lap later. He is now all over the back of our teammate here, and you know, as much as Albon has absolutely had the better of me so far this campaign, I would still love for us to walk away with a 1-2 come the end of this race. It'd be the team's first 1-2 as well, which would be really, really important. Of course, we've each had, I think we've both had 1 podium so far this year, haven't we? Albon got a 3rd place at Monaco. I got a 2nd place at Austria, as Perez has gone and done it immediately then. I haven't even got time to try and hype Albon up. Perez has just got past him straight up. So are we going to see Albon try and potentially get a run as we head down the back straight once again? He will get another chance at it on the final lap of the race, so maybe it's a question of who doesn't want to be in front at the moment there, but Perez is still going to be ahead of him for now, and just every Audi car tyres just starting to fall off. Perez might have managed this race slightly better, but you know, that gap that we built up early on might prove pivotal by the end of the afternoon. But what a weird weekend it's been here in Le Castellet. I started the intro obviously in qualifying saying that this might be the first season we don't win a race on F123, when we've probably got a car that should be as close to winning a race as sensibly possible, but since then we just have never looked back. I feel like, again, I'm learning more and more about F123 with every passing day at the moment, and I felt like I've struggled a bit in different series in recent times, but you know, obviously jumping back in with the league racing, everything like that, it just gives me more wheel time, gives me more seat time, and really learning the nuances of how to extract as much as possible out of the car on this game. A final lap then here from Le Castellet. It isn't going to be my first win of F123, but it certainly feels as sweet as it. We just have not had the luck so far this year. You know, a few 7th places, 8th places early on, and just so many Grand Prix where it's been what if, you know, had that one thing played out slightly differently, things could have been very, very different here. But this weekend, it has ultimately been the race of finally getting back to where I know we belong. Austria was kind of the precursor to that. We showcased good pace there, but Red Bull still had that little bit extra. But these final 2 upgrades coming onto the car that aren't supplied by Red Bull have really made a world of difference there. Hamilton is going to try and find a way back past Max Verstappen as well on the final lap of the race. So there are big championship ramifications going on at the front of the field. But in towards the final sector of the French Grand Prix, it has really not been my season up to this point, but as we've got one more weekend before the summer break, next weekend out in Belgium, I'm really hoping now we are back and we are properly here to fight. Through the final couple of corners, we basically led from start to finish, pole position, fastest lap, and a race victory there. It's going to be the full host of 26 points at the final corner. For the first time since Mexico last season, we are back on top here on F123. Get in there.
So sore. Ah, fantastic drive. That's just fantastic. Amazing. You deserve that race win. Well done, mate.
Another superb French Grand Prix comes to an end, and it's a thoroughly deserved victory. Natalie Pinkham, how do you think they were able to set themselves apart today?
Well, what a race. At the end of the day, it is all about raw pace, and our winner had it in spades today.
The faces on our top three look so incredibly happy as they make their way up to the podium. A much-deserved victory and a brilliant performance from them all. And now let's take a look at the driver's standings. A result that will make Sergio Perez happy as he pushes his championship lead out even further. So then, Natalie Pinkham, who would you rank as your driver of the day?
I have to give it to Miss Monaco.
It's time to check out the constructors' standings. And pulling further ahead in the standings, it's Red Bull. Meanwhile, good work from the owner-drivers team this weekend, who pushed themselves further up the order. And with that, we wrap up another weekend of motorsport action. But with more races lined up, be sure to join us when we come back with more Formula One.
Well, there we are then, the end of the French Grand Prix, and finally back on top there in the full host of 26 points as well. Could it get much better than that? I don't think so there. Perez P2 ahead of Albon. Hamilton comes through for fourth ahead of Verstappen there, with both Ferraris, George Russell, and both Aston Martins rounding out our top 10, so only the top 5 teams scoring, followed by both Alpines, and then both McLarens, and then both Williams. There is a bit of a mix-up, though, between the Haas and the Alfa Romeos there, and the Alfa Tauris at the rear of the field. Kind of feels a little bit at the moment like we've reached a bit of pace brackets inside F123. But that's going to mean, though, Perez opens up his championship lead once more there, 34 points ahead of Max Verstappen. George Russell still retains his P3 ahead of Sainz and Leclerc, and Hamilton there with a good result, now back in P6. Albon, though, jumps Oscar Piastri. We're just 2 points now back behind the Australian. One win apiece between myself and Oscar this season, and Red Bull, yeah, have only won one of the last 4 Grand Prix, despite winning the first 8 in a row there. No other movers, though, further down in the Drivers' Championship. Red Bull, though, 127-point lead in the Constructors. We jump miles clear of Aston Martin, though, with that result. And, you know, maybe we can still fight Mercedes and Ferrari towards the end of the campaign. But thank you all so much for watching this video. If you have enjoyed, please do make sure to leave a like, get yourself subscribed as well, and we will be back very, very soon when Formula One returns for the Belgian Grand Prix, our second sprint race of the season. I think, to be honest, after the race we've had today, I am feeling confident.